What is the best 27-inch gaming monitor? If you ask me, there are only 3 correct answers to this question. One is the 480Hz WOLED panel made by LG that you can find in LG or ASUS gaming monitors. This has the best OLED performance with insane motion clarity and smoothness for gaming, as well as pretty solid OLED colors. But sacrifice a little bit of performance and move towards the image quality end of the spectrum, and you find the 360Hz QD OLED 1440p panel made by Samsung, which you can find in Samsung, Alienware, Gigabyte, MSI, and ASUS monitors. This thing has a glossy coating, and the QD OLED makes the contrast and saturation ever so slightly nicer than the 480Hz. But move it all the way to image quality at the expense of performance, and that's where you find what I think is the correct answer: the 4K 27-inch QD OLED panel made by Samsung. It's found in the ASUS PG27 UCDM and this, the XG27 UCDMG. I cannot understate how beautiful 4K resolution at 27 inches looks. I mean, just take a look at it. It's so much crisper, sharper, and detailed than the 1440p monitors on this list, and it is just amazing to look at. It kind of feels like the difference between looking at a nice picture taken by a phone and a crisp picture taken by a proper mirrorless camera. To put it into context, this has 166 pixels per inch, which is almost 50% more than the 109 pixels per inch the 27-inch screens have. It is amazing to look at. And it's so sharp and detailed that it actually fixes one of OLED's biggest issue, which is text clarity. Color fringing on text or blurry text is just a straight non-problem on this monitor because it's so sharp anyways that it more than makes up for it. But it's not just that beautiful resolution. It's also a wonderful QD OLED panel with a glossy coating, meaning you get saturated punchy colors, deep blacks creating infinite wonderful contrast. And it gets reasonably bright with a 450 nits peak brightness in SDR and 1000 nits peak brightness in HDR. It doesn't sound impressive next to mini LED displays that can hit 2, 3, 4000 nits, but with how deep those blacks are in a dark room, the HDR looks out of this world. It also, of course, does 10-bit color with 99% DCI-P3 coverage and 145% sRGB coverage. AAA games, this is as beautiful as you would expect. Cyberpunk feels like the neon lights are making me wanna start a life of crime, and Black Myth Wukong makes me feel like an actual monkey in the mountains of China. Of course, it's also brilliant for watching movies and YouTube videos if you want to watch Marques Brownlee's follicles in high-def detail resolution. This glossy coating just looks sharper and crisper than the matte coating on the WOLED panels on the market. They're missing out by putting an anti-glare thing on their beautiful displays. Importantly, because this is an OLED display, its pixel response time is near 0.01 milliseconds, which means without any fancy trickery of backlight strobing that LCD has to do, it has darn near zero motion blur, making fast-paced gaming scenes look crystal clear and allow you to really keep up and track motion effortlessly. So even for esports gaming, this thing actually works a treat. And I would actually consider this to be one of the best 240Hz 27-inch esports monitors to exist, although I would consider you a little daft if you bought this monitor just for esports. Another thing about this gaming monitor is that it's extremely color accurate. So if you needed a monitor not just for gaming, but also creating things that need color precision, this thing is surprisingly good value. You get 10-bit color, and with some calibration, a color space that basically can match some of the more expensive Pro LCD displays. And if you were color grading in 2025, I probably would recommend considering a QD OLED, so long as you're not trying to do anything severely pro level. And if you're exporting to web, I actually think getting a gaming OLED and a color calibrator is probably one of the best possible options for something good in 2025. It also has ELMB, which is extreme low motion blur. This halves the refresh rate to 120 Hz, but increases motion clarity by basically turning the display off every other frame to hide any pixel response time smearing. Basically, in a similar way that backlight strobing does it on LCDs. It is effective in making the image clearer, especially if you can't get consistently above 240 FPS in your games. It's also good because G-Sync and FreeSync do exist, but variable refresh rate isn't the best on OLEDs to this day, with some noticeable flicker, especially at higher brightness settings. So keep that in mind. As for other things, it's got great viewing angles as you would expect with an OLED, though its ability to handle reflections isn't particularly great thanks to that glossy coating and the QD OLED technology kind of refracting and graying out when a harsh light is shown on it. As for whether to get this or the PG27 UCDM, I would say get this any day of the week. You get similar image quality and you do lag out on a few software features and get thicker bezels, but personally, these are all small issues relative to the vast difference in price of the two. This is just straight up better value. So yeah, this is the best 27-inch gaming monitor I've used to date. It's clearer than anything else, sharper than anything else, has better color than anything else, and it's just out of this world. It might not be the fastest at 240Hz, but with the motion clarity of OLED paired with the fact that it's still a healthy 240Hz, unless you're a pro player, it really wouldn't matter as an impact to your performance. And I say this as someone who has tried all, the 480, the 360, and this. I'll get this any day of the week.